Great. Yeah.
Did it work out all right?
Yeah. I'm just holding you down. I'm just holding you back. Oh.
Okay, so we have new internet. We have 300 speed, so you should see a big difference in the quality.
Well, you do look a little older.
Let's pretend to be happy.
Welcome to Pondering Psalms. This week we're taking a look at Psalm 91, and Curt and I have been reading the same psalm for every day this week because when you read something every day, your perspective changes. And I am David Mullins. I'm here with
Curt Austin.
Almost forgot that part, but I didn't.
No.
How you doing, Curt?
You know what? Let's talk about Psalm 91 and not how I'm doing. Because, to be honest, Psalm 91 is perfect for this time of our lives.
It is. Yeah. It's really perfect for any time. This is a psalm I hear quite a bit. And you're just wanting to jump in, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah. Let's talk about it. It's not too many verses, and it's
really
really good content.
Banter, which is fine because this psalm should take center stage.
Oh, very nice. I like the way you said that.
Yeah. So there we go. Those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty.
It's a beautiful way to start.
It is. And really this is, I mean, it like explodes from here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the statement.
And my wife and I were talking about this, and we were talking about the fact that it's kind of the anchoring point. It is the anchoring point of this psalm. And she's the one who coined that term, anchoring point. Well, I don't know if she coined it. She used the term, but maybe not coined it. But
okay.
Otherwise, but I think she's right. I mean, that that this is the crux of, the center of this passage for us this week.
Yeah, and from verse 1, the psalmist begins to expand out verse 1. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really cool what the psalmist does through here.
Well, take us on. Keep going.
Okay.
I mean, I was happy to stop with verse 1, but if you want to talk about more,
I mean that's the thing. It all goes back to this first one. Those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. And really, with every verse, we could go back to verse 1. I think. Mm-hmm. And so he continues and he says, "This I declare about the Lord: He alone is my refuge." Shelter of the Most High. He's my refuge, my place of safety, shelter of the Most High. He is my God, and I trust him. Find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. It just continues on. I mean, it is fantastic. It really is.
Are we heading on? 3. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. And then he goes from that first statement to his declaration, and then he gives us a list of things that God does, or reasons why he says this. Did you know that he will rescue from every trap? Did you know that, Curt?
Well, keep reading because I have questions for you.
Oh, no. No. Protect you from deadly disease.
Okay.
Keep going. He will cover you with his feathers. He will shelter you with his wings. His faithful promises are your armor and protection.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for a question.
Well, all right, because I know he gets on into it about all of this litany of fears, or this litany of, right? I mean, don't be afraid of terrors of the night or the arrows that fly in the day. So terrors of the night, I don't know if you were like me as a kid, but I was scared to death of the dark. Probably the readers of this, think how dark it was out in the plains under the tents. Do not dread the disease that stalks in the darkness, nor the disaster that will strike in midday. Though 1,000 fall at your side, though 10,000 are dying around you, these evils will not touch you. Just open your eyes and see how the wicked are punished. So my question is, does this mean I don't have to worry about COVID?
Well, let's back up for a moment. Keep that thought. That's a good
question,
thought,
right?
Yeah, that is the question. Because I don't want to pass over 3 and 4, because he basically says this is why he declares what he's declaring. This is why those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. For he will rescue you, he will protect you, he will cover you, he will shelter you. His faithful promises are your armor and your protection. And then from this, you extrapolate. This is to be your attitude. This is to be your stance, to not be afraid. And so your question is what?
Do not be afraid. Do not dread. Thousand dying around these evils. This promise in 7, these evils will not touch you.
Yeah,
that's where my question is. Right.
You're asking, does God put us in some sort of protective bubble?
Yeah. I mean, do we have this charm that we get to wear around our neck?
Well, you could go out and buy a bubble. I've seen some people.
Some people are.
Yeah. See? So,
Well, as I was reading through this, I mean, if you go on down to 9 and 10, if you make the Lord your refuge, so there's a kind of an if-then statement, right?
Yes.
If you make your Lord your refuge, if you make the Most High your shelter, then, verse 10, no evil will conquer you and no plague will come near your home. For he will order his angels to protect you wherever you go. You've got these terrors, these anxiety-producing situations that are not just for the hearer of the original writing, right? Like you had said, it's perfect for every time,
right?
Because we all have this range of anxieties that we deal with. For mothers who put their kids on the bus for the very first time, there's such anxiety about, is my kid going to be safe? Will it be all right?
Yeah.
If you are a black man, black woman in this country at this point, there's all kinds of anxiety about your own safety. You and I don't even begin to understand what it's like for a woman to walk down the street by herself compared to what you and I can do. But there are these different levels of anxieties, and the psalmist seems to be saying, I'm waiting for you to say that's not true. The psalmist seems to be saying you don't have to worry about any of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some ways, this, I think, is a response to Psalm 90. And, I watched the episode you did on Psalm 90, and it talked about your life being full of trouble and full of pain. But I think you kind of have to keep both of those. And I also think, Psalm 90 talked about, us counting our days. And I think Psalm 91, and I don't know if this was the psalmist's goal, but I mean, for me, Psalm 91 reminds me to look past my earthly days, to realize that the Lord is my shelter and he is my resting place. And this life is not all that there is.
Going back to verse 1 and 2.
Yeah. Again, always going back to verse 1 and 2. And so when it says, no evil will conquer you, well, no, it won't. No plague will come near your home. No, it won't, because my home is not of this land. It's of another land. Verse 11, you remember you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, it's in Matthew. Matthew chapter 4. I've got it open right here.
All right. So hit me with it, man.
So it's the temptation of Jesus, right? And the devil uses this verse.
Yeah.
This very passage here, and he says, then the devil took him to the holy city Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple, and he said, if you're the Son of God, jump off. For Scripture says he will, so you don't even hurt your foot on a stone.
Okay, we need to back up because you actually stopped mid-sentence.
Oh, did I really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I don't know what the glitch was there, but something. You start. So we could take it from when you start reading.
Okay.
That will work.
This is Matthew chapter 4. This is the temptation of Jesus. And in verse 5, it says, "The devil took him to the holy city Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple, and said, 'If you are the Son of God, jump off. For the scriptures say, he will order his angels to protect you, and they will hold you up with their hands, so you won't even hurt your foot on a stone,'" which is exactly what verse 12 is, right? 11 and 12.
Yeah. Yes.
So the devil, Satan himself uses this to push Jesus into some sort of action or to some sort of response, right? And then Jesus' response is, the scripture also says you must not test the Lord your God.
Yeah. Now, you could make the argument that Satan was asking Jesus to do something, which would be testing. But, maybe there's a deeper truth here that Jesus knew that, as he said, in this life, you will have trouble, but take courage. I have overcome this world. And I think that's really what this Psalm speaks to. The fact that when we make Jesus our God, our shelter, I'm going to go back to verse 1 again. There we go. Shelter, when we find rest in his shadow, that it's not that we're in a protective bubble and we won't experience pain. Psalm 90 talks about that. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that our vision is a lot more, is further. We're not just looking at this life here. We realize that there's a life beyond this life, and he protects us, and evil will not conquer us. Plague will not come near our home. He has ordered his angels to protect us. But that doesn't necessarily mean that bad things won't come. Jesus, go ahead.
It's also a reminder that we can't be, that we need to use common sense. God gave us common sense for a reason. We can't run red lights knowing that God's going to protect us. We have to wear seatbelts. We need to wear masks. We need to keep social distance. We need to do things that we know are true to help us.
That is, if you're watching this in the fall of 2020.
That's right.
If this is like 2025 and you're like, why should I wear a mask? Because a pandemic is gone. Look in your history books. 2020.
It happened back then. Of course, the internet may be gone. We may not even exist.
Then we don't have to worry about the disclaimer.
That's true. But I think about the next verse where you'll trample upon lions and cobras. There's a passage about you'll handle serpents, you'll handle snakes, and there are people who take that into heart, saying, it says that I can do that now. So here I am. Even though 1,000 are dying around me, I can just wade right out into it, because I'm not going to be touched.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And it really does parallel with what Jesus was saying. Someone could take a look at this and say, I'm not going to, again, we're dealing with COVID-19, could say, I'm not going to be afraid of the disease. I'm just going to walk out in the middle. I'm not going to take any precautions. Mm-hmm. I am going to live in risky behavior, because the Lord is my shelter. I'm resting in the shadow of his wings. But when the devil tempted Jesus with that same argument, Jesus said, no, that is not how to interpret this passage.
And I think that Jesus could only do that because he fully understood the full Psalm, verses 1 and 2.
And not just the full Psalm, the full revelation of God.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that right now. We're only talking about Psalm 91.
Okay.
So let's leave it there.
All right.
Go on to verse 14. Go on to verse 14.
Oh, I want to say something about 13.
Oh my gosh, this is never going to end, Dave. Come on, let's wrap it
up. I know. Lions and cobras. And bears.
And bears, oh my.
Oh my. No, these are both things that will attack you, but in different ways. The lion, and this was one of the commentary writers pointed out, that lions kind of do a frontal attack. The cobras, however, they're kind of cunning and sneaky, and so you kind of have both realities. That you have those frontal attacks, but you also have some of those subtle attacks. And in God's shelter, he protects you from both. If if, that's a big if, you make the Lord your refuge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and probably really understanding what that means. It doesn't mean just going to church on Sundays.
Now you're meddling.
I'm digging in, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
But I think
Yeah.
14, I think, I will rescue those who love me. I will
Yeah.
protect those who trust in my name. I mean, again, it's not just showing up to church.
Yeah.
It's really a relationship with God in such a way that you have this full trust in the God of heaven and earth. You have a full understanding of, and maybe even fear and awe of this amazing creator of the universe.
And I don't want to put you on the spot.
Do it. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. Do you remember what Jesus said about those who love him?
No. So verse 15, he said, well,
no, let's move on.
Well, it could be what? Those who love me will do my will.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that's
good.
it. Those who love me will obey me.
Yeah.
Those who love me will keep my word. I think you could easily translate that as obey, but we don't do it usually. Usually we'll say, those who love me keep my word. Well, what's that mean? Well, it means you're going to obey. You're going to follow. And so, like you said, it's not just about going to church. It's about reorienting your life around the way and will of God through Jesus, revealed through Jesus.
So if you're anchored, then all of these other things that try to anchor you in a different direction, right?
Yeah.
They try and increase your fear, develop anxiety, produce concern. They have no power over you.
Exactly.
If you truly are anchored, and then 15, 16 really then kind of wraps that, kind of circles it back around to verse 1, right?
Yeah.
And when they call on me, I will answer. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue and honor them. I will reward them with a long life and give them my salvation.
Yeah. Yeah. Which isn't only going to heaven after you die.
Right.
This salvation is, I think it's more in line with Jesus saying, I've come so that they might have life and have it abundantly. It's
John 10:10. First sermon I ever preached.
Really?
Yep. First sermon I ever preached, John 10:10.
Wow. That's a good one. I love that because Jesus said, this is why I came.
Yeah.
And that salvation is it's the shalom. It's full life completely. And this, to kind of go back with the structure, because I love this for the Psalm for this. You got verse 1, which is basically, okay, this is what I'm going to discuss today. I mean, it's almost like a sermon. This is what I'm going to discuss. And so it's like, this is what I declare. Why? Verse 3 and 4, because of this. And so because of that, this is how we are to live, not in fear, but also not in foolishness. And we get that from Jesus in Matthew chapter 4. And then number 9 is like, this is what you experience if you do this. You might not. You might decide to make something else your refuge. You might want to make, I'm on this P thing right now in my sermons. Power, pleasure.
You might want to say alliteration.
Alliteration.
P alliteration using P.
So this P thing. the power, possession, pleasure, politics, prestige. I mean, there are some others as well. And sometimes that's what we make our refuge. And that's what we make our shelter. Yeah. And if we do that, then we will fear the evil. Evil will conquer us, and all this stuff. And then finally, God speaks.
Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing. He ends it with a declaration, not from the psalmist, but from God himself, basically saying, yeah, he's right. This is the deal.
Yeah, it's very, very good. It's probably my favorite one we've talked about so far.
And it's a favorite of a lot of folks.
Yeah. But I think it's a favorite because it's often deemed as a talisman, as a magical cure.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not put into the perspective of, just like you said, Psalm 90, which is all my days are trouble.
Yeah.
Just give me a few of the days that are just as good as the ones that you've given me that are in trouble, and I'd be happy. And so when you go into it with that all of life is not this prosperity kind of a gospel. If you believe, then you're not going to have any problems.
Right.
Life is hard.
Yeah.
But where do you rest? Where do you put your trust and your faith?
Yeah, and I do like, bringing in Jesus, because, Jesus didn't say it this way, but he's like, to jump off the pinnacle of the temple, I mean, that's just foolish.
Yeah.
And that's putting God to the test when I act foolishly and expect God to jump in.
Yeah.
And, but, Jesus didn't operate in fear. And that maybe that's, I don't know. I know we're getting near the end.
We're way over.
Well, are we? Oh, man. But
go ahead and finish that up, because I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah. But you can't look at Jesus' life and say that no trouble came to his door.
Ooh.
In fact, it's almost like he
edit out what I was going to say and put in what you're saying, because that's brilliant.
Well, it just came to me, because he knew this psalm, that Satan knew this psalm, but what Jesus knew about it is it's about the orientation of your life. And when you orientate your life toward God and his will and his way, all of a sudden, all these other things lose their power over you, because you are in the shelter of the Almighty, and you're resting in his shadow. And all this other stuff. And that's why Jesus, I think, could, basically walk through his life with all the difficulties that he faced and come out on the other side.
Yeah, I love that. And not just the crucifixion, right? But the number of times he was run out of town, the number of times people wanted to kill him, the number of times that he was rejected. The times in John's chapter 6, where his disciples, most of them left him. Yeah. Yeah. And that's early. That's early in his ministry.
Yeah. And he looks at his 12 and he goes, "Are you guys going to leave too?" I mean,
where else would we go? I mean,
I know,
they
but
were
can
faithful,
you imagine?
But in the meantime, 100 other followers just walked away.
Yeah, but can you imagine just in that time when you're waiting for them to answer and you have to ask the question, "Are you guys going to leave too?" Because the only reason you ask that question is you think that they might.
Or to test them. It could be to test them.
I don't know. I don't think so.
But I think but I love that. I love that idea that he went through all of this.
Yeah.
Knowing this psalm and knowing really where the outcome was for him, knowing where he was heading.
Yeah. And again, it's the same with us. This world is not our home. And if you focus on the stuff here, then you go say, well, this psalm just doesn't work. Yeah. I've heard people say stuff like, "Oh, it doesn't work." I trusted God and then my life got worse. Well, you know what? Look at the disciples, look at Christians throughout the ages. Look at the ones, God does not promise us this bubble where the reality of sin doesn't intrude on our lives. But what he has promised us is that we will be victorious because we will be with him, and we will find our ways back to him. And what a wonderful day that will be.
Very nice. Let's end on that.
Okay.
I like it. Bring us to the big screen. Let's see each other's faces.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because sometimes I forget the big screen. There's the big screen.
Take us home.
Yeah. Well, I thank you guys for watching. I don't know how long this is. We've been doing this for over an hour. We start, and we chat about things. But we're so glad that we're able to do this. And we hope that you find encouragement, maybe from time to time, even conviction, because conviction leads us to a better place. And I pray that Psalm 91 would be a guide and give you some directives for your life as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Curt. Thanks for spending this time with me, man.
All right. We'll talk to you next week. 92.
Yes. Yep.
92. We'll see you then.
92. Blessings, everyone.
Bye.
I'm not sure. I'm not loving this shirt. Maybe it's not the shirt. There we go. What? What'd I say? It's still hot in this room.
It's getting hot in here too.
Wow. I'm flattered. I'm glad nobody watches these.
I know.